I see you got the memo. What memo? The one about wearing the same shirt. There was a memo? That was a joke. Oh. Was it funny? Not really. Are you ready to start the show? Yes, sir. Here we go.
Greetings, imaginary can of worms. Once again it is I, your semolina of cinnamon, your vicar of very silly attitudes, and your arched-back of Frankenberry, B.L. Alley. And who might you be? And no nicknames.
I'm Claude Cole.
Welcome to 11 Views, Milking the Movies. What's this show about, Claude?
We drink milk and talk about movies.
That's right. And tonight's movie is The Big Lebowski, starring Jeff Bridges as the Dude, and directed by the Coen brothers. You asked to choose tonight's milk, so what did you come up with? Why did you pick half and half?
Because it's purple?
Let me see the ingredients.
Wow.
Well, at least it's real half and half, but I don't think we want to drink this.
How come?
Because it's half cream. That's a bit heavy for my taste.
Oh,
We can have some in our coffee later.
okay.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. But as always, Milking the Movies is brought to you by Ill-Fated Ocelot Men's Anti-Grooming Products. When a man wants to look and feel his worst. Hopefully we're going to have a special guest next time. So what movie should we watch?
What about the one you watched on your computer last night?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Remember? The nice lady was dressed like a cowboy, but she forgot her pants.
It's time to go.
Okay.
So how do we always end the show, Claude?
Abruptly?
I meant, what do you say?
Oh! Everyone in heat has a story from hell that you have Yeti ears. All your hats with dew will glisten.
And?
Hold the others tight?
I guess that's appropriate for this show. Good night.
Well, Elizabeth, are you ready to celebrate tonight's Star Trek Day? Is now turned into Star Trek Night.
Star Trek Day, man.
Star-
All the way.
And Generations, very controversial movie. I was very curious. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, because listening to you watch it, I mean, people should know you're in the middle of a Next Generation rewatch. You're in the middle of the fourth season.
Yes.
And, well,
Yep.
we're going to talk about this movie.
Yes, we are.
And I think you're going to have a lot of opinions about it.
I do. I have a lot to say.
A lot to say. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your sommelier of cinema. And I'm here with my trusty compatriot. Who might you be?
I am Elysabeth Gwendolyn Belle. I am the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment.
And we saw that lovely graphic of you, our new addition to the show, our lovely graphic by Xevious.
Yes. I
Who,
love that. I love it.
It's great, isn't it?
It's pretty
It's
cool.
pretty awesome. But you want the hair to be blonder.
It's a little gray, but
What are you going to do? Anyway, so tonight's movie, well, before we get into starting to talk about tonight's movie, here's a wine. This came from Naked Wines. This is this is Red Like a Redhead. Jen Pfeiffer's Red Like a Redhead.
wow.
Red Like a Red. Oh, wait, I can't do it on this one because you can't see the label. This is a Tempranillo, and it's Red Like a Redhead. All right.
That's made just for you.
Made just for me, because I can't get over my redheads. What can I say? Let me pour it up for you. Oh, that's Katowski's thing. Katolsky, pour it up. He always drinks tea.
Pour it up, Buttercup.
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind beings from across the 28 known galaxies, however you identify, today is Star Trek Day, September 8th. Now, I know some smartass is going to go, you know, Rob, Star Trek debuted September 6th in Canada. That's true. I don't care.
We're not in Canada.
I don't care. Star Trek Day is September 8th. September 8th, 1966, The Man Trap debuted. And yes, I know, it was not the second pilot where No Man Has Gone Before. The pilot that sold, the Cage did not sell. So, the Cage was a failed pilot. Anyway, if you watch Star Trek Day's panel on Strange New Worlds, they're under the impression that apparently the Cage was the pilot for Star Trek. It is not. It failed. Anyway, let me take this off. Anyway, so we're going to watch The Verdict. I thought it might be fun if we just threw in a Star Trek movie. And since you watched the original series and just sailed right into Next Gen.
I did.
And you're into the 4th season, so you haven't watched all of them, but there's enough. You've seen enough already. You've seen Lursa and B'Etor and Sins of the Father.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I'd seen it before, although my memory,
Yeah, your memory is what it was. So this film came out in 1994. It came out mere months after Next Generation went off the air. With All Good Things. They began shooting it when they stopped shooting that series. And this came out in the Christmas holiday season, Thanksgiving of 1994. And arguably when Star Trek was at its most popular. It was on the cover of Time magazine, this movie. Star Trek, The Next Generation left the air with huge ratings. There was a lot of people very excited about this movie. I was one of them. I first saw this movie on the Paramount lot before it opened at a special screening I was invited to. I went with Mark Altman, and when the movie was over, Mark Altman was screaming and yelling in the lobby, and I was like, dude, just hold it down till we, get off the Paramount lot. Let's get off the studio lot first. Let's get off the studio lot. It was a big event. A lot of people are excited about this movie. Shh. He couldn't contain himself. So the real question, Elizabeth, is...
Well, first, shall we taste our wine?
Oh, yes, let's drink. Let's drink to the enduring legacy of Star Trek. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great, sometimes it's maddening, and this movie is just a big potpourri of both.
Well,
so let's drink to 1994's Star Trek Generations, directed by David Carson, produced by Rick Berman, and written by Brandon Braga and Ron Moore, based on a story by Rick Berman, Brandon Braga, and Ron Moore. The movie that brought two generations together that wasn't nearly as good as the Reeve Stevens book Federation, but we won't get into that. The real question is, we have to drink our wine.
Am I even going to get
a
word in edgewise?
Sorry, I just want to prep everybody. It's all about you. It's your show. The question I have for you, Elizabeth, is...
Yes?
There's a public safety alert, by the way.
Yeah, we might have to evacuate.
We might have to evacuate, yes.
There's a fire burning right above us.
Right down the street. Well, yeah.
Down the street?
Well, it's, in Azusa.
No, but it's come closer now. It's
I know.
Monrovia and Altadena.
I know.
If we have to run out of here before we end...
I ain't going nowhere. There's hoses. You know what would happen to us if this was gone? All of everything in the observatory?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
I guess we're protecting the observatory.
Yes. It's the last to go.
With all of our hoses.
We got sprinklers and hoses, man. I'm here. Plus, we got a natural fire break. We got a road.
That's true. We have the freeway blocking us.
It's okay. We're good. So anyway, let's not get sidetracked. The question I have for you, Elizabeth, is you had never seen this movie before.
I had never seen this movie before.
And now having gone through the original series and Next Generation,
yeah.
What did you think of Star Trek Generations?
Well, do you want to go through the plot, or do you want me to just tell you what I think of it?
You know what? I think going through the plot of this movie might be a little... I mean, I know Dieter Bastian loves when we stumble through the plots, but I think this movie, it requires more... This is a more of an editorial kind of a review. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think basically... Well, yeah, you know what? I don't want to say anything. I would just like you to take the floor, and let's hear about your thoughts on Star Trek Generations. It is, after all, Elysabeth's.
Okay, so it starts off with what feels like a parody of the original series. I mean,
wow,
it felt like they were actually making fun of the original series. The jokes were not funny. They were corny. And then they go on to the Enterprise-B for the christening. And they christened the ship before the ship was even fully prepared, which that doesn't happen. Okay, so they're going to go take it out for a spin.
Around the block.
Around the block.
They're going to Pluto and they're going to come right back.
Right. Okay, and so now the current crew of the Enterprise-B are a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, which is mind-blowing. Why would they even be... First of all, why would there be a captain on the Enterprise who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing?
Well, these are questions that you should address to the audience, and I think these...
Ferris Bueller's best friend? Come on.
Let my Cameron go. No, that's a... look, this is a very, very good question to ask, because once you ascend to the captaincy of a Federation starship, you're pretty good at your job.
You'd have to be. I mean, it's the Enterprise after all.
It is the Enterprise after all. Not necessarily the flagship of the Federation yet. We don't know what the status of the Enterprise-B is. It was not canonically established in the movie.
Still, it's a Federation starship.
It is a Federation starship. A refit of the Excelsior.
Yeah. It felt kind of like, what is this? I was a little confused at first.
Certainly not a lot of reverence at the beginning. It's more played for yucks and laughs. Why do you think that is?
I don't know why. Why would they do that?
Especially coming off of arguably one of the great 2-part or 1 hour and a half, if you watch it all together, episodes of science fiction television ever in All Good Things. Now, to be fair, Brandon Braga and Ron Moore were writing All Good Things, which is essentially a movie, and they were writing this at the same time.
Okay.
But I still think that this film betrays their writing ability on every level.
Yeah, because it doesn't even make any goddamn sense.
Don't mince words. What do you really think?
Okay.
Give me those views, babe.
Okay. So...
Fire those Elizabeth views my way, because God, I know I'm going to love this show. So keep going.
Okay, so, of course, when they're out on their little tour around the block, something happens. They get a distress signal, and they have to go and investigate because there are no other ships close by.
Isn't that what it? You know, you're the center of the United Federation of Planets, and there only ever seems to be one ship around.
Right.
And they have to go rescue 2 Allurian ships. Allurians are the same race that Guinan is.
Right.
And they are Borg refugees. Allurian refugees that are fleeing the Borg destruction of their homeworld.
Right.
And what is happening to them?
Okay, so they get this distress signal, and then they go... they have to go, but they don't have a complete crew. They don't have any missiles. They don't have anything.
Photon torpedoes.
Whatever.
They don't have any tractor beam either.
They don't have anything, which is, what the hell are they even doing on that ship until it's ready? And then the captain I just can't stand him. He's just a bumbling idiot.
He is a bumbling idiot, and I think that is not. I like Ron Moore and Brannon. I know them, but the writing in the opening of this sequence in this movie is ridiculous.
It is very ridiculous. Yeah.
Because the captain's a scaredy cat. Like he's afraid,
and he keeps trying to like hoist it onto Captain Kirk. And Captain Kirk's like, okay, I'll take over. But then he like sends him to fix whatever. Okay, wait, we're not to that point yet. So they go to rescue these people.
Hoisting on his petard or Picard. No, never mind.
Whatever. So they go to rescue these 2 ships. And they get there, and it's kind of, they're enveloped in this kind of energy.
A big, very cool visual effect. ILM did a fine job with his energy ribbon, whatever it is.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question. As we know, this energy ribbon is moving through space.
Right.
But apparently right now it's not moving anywhere.
Oh, that's true.
It's kind of staying in one place.
Right. And these ships are kind of like stuck in it.
Yeah. I guess they're being dragged along with it.
I guess so.
I don't know. Keep going.
So then what happens? They...
Well, they're stuck, and one of the ships explodes, and then they're able to rescue like 42 people.
Well, one ship explodes, and then they're trying to beam... Oh, he asks Captain Kirk, what should I do? I mean, come on. It's dumb. Captain Kirk has to tell him, go over there and get those people off.
I mean, he literally has to... And I understand what they're doing. I understand from a story standpoint they're trying to... It's Captain Harriman, by the way. And Kirk's like, well, what you got to do is you've got to take a risk and, get the transporters.
How did he become the captain of a ship if he didn't know how to take risks?
You got me. Maybe he's a millennial.
So annoying.
Maybe, he's too afraid of getting criticized. He's the millennial captain of the Enterprise-B.
Except that he wouldn't even become a captain if he was scared.
No. The depiction of Captain Harriman is not one of Star Trek's high points.
No, it's terrible. It's an insult.
It is an insult.
So...
It's an insult to Ron Tracy.
Yeah. Whoever he is. It's an insult. So they
was...
go over there, and Captain Kirk tells him to go close enough so that you can beam everyone on and save these people.
Which doesn't really seem like a plan that is outlandish.
Right, but like, it's dangerous. It's like, well, basically Captain Kirk is like, you have to take risks. Thinking, what the fuck are you doing as being a captain of this ship?
Now, I will say this. There is a brief moment before the ship launches where everyone is told to take their seats. And there's a great moment where Shatner, he plays it beautifully, when he has his hand on the back of the captain's chair.
Yeah.
And as he's walking away, he kind of strokes the captain's chair. And it's this great moment. Shatner, because he's a genius and God, he plays it very, very well, and it's the best moment in the whole opening. When you realize he's even though he's retired, he still yearns to sit in the center seat, and that dynamic and the way they played with Chekhov and Scotty and Kirk, and there are some interesting things. We meet Demora Sulu, who's Mr. Sulu's daughter.
That was a good character.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, she's brief, but and the idea...
She was the only one who knew what the fuck she was doing.
She knew yes. Well, don't forget Jeanette Goldstein Vasquez. Vasquez's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, Vasquez from Aliens, is on the ship as well.
What?
I know. You'd be like, what are you talking about? I understand. Jeanette Goldstein, the actress, she's on the Enterprise-B. She's part of the bridge crew. I like to think of her as Vasquez's granddaughter. She's pretty capable.
That's not part of the story. You're just saying that because...
No, it's not canonically connected to Aliens. You're correct. But I like to think it is because it makes it better.
In your mind.
In your mind, Quaid. Total Recall. We're going to do that when the 4K comes out. Woohoo! Okay, so...
Okay. Where were we?
Okay, so they're going to beam... They're going to get the ship closer.
They're trying to beam all these people up. Okay, and then the engineer doesn't even know how to do that because nothing is functioning properly and this ship is not prepared for anything.
So Scotty and Kirk...
Scotty takes over.
Scotty takes over.
And is able to beam over only 46 people out of 150.
42, I think, but yeah.
6.
Okay, 46, and there was like 240 or something on the other.
150.
Okay, oh, that's right, you're out. Okay, 150. I would not presume to debate you. And Kirk, Scotty says, look, we might be able to break free if we can duplicate a photon torpedo blast.
Right.
With the main deflector, but you got to go down to deck 15. You got to go down into the bowels of the ship and maybe fix something else.
Right.
Some cockamamie. You got to do it by hand.
Right.
Like I got to go mix the intermix chamber to make the warp drive work.
Mixa chocolate. So then the captain is like, Captain Kirk, you take over the bridge and I'll go. And then Captain Kirk is like, at first he's like, yeah, and then he's like, oh. Probably shouldn't do that. He's like, no, you stay on your bridge.
Would you trust that guy to go save the ship?
I do. That's why he volunteered.
If you heard Kirk's inner monologue, he's like, shit, this moron can't do shit. I gotta go down and fix it myself.
Why didn't he send Scotty? That would have made more sense.
Scotty couldn't move as fast as he used to.
That's true.
So you can't send... Scotty's working the transporter. Scotty has to... he's going to figure out how to... He's got the engineering to do.
Why didn't he send Chekhov? Chekhov could have
Chekhov doesn't know what he's doing.
Yes, he does.
No,
he knows what he's doing. Anyway, so he goes down there and makes the magic happen and saves the ship, but in the meantime...
The ship is free.
Yeah.
But then a blast from the Nexus takes out the front corner, the left-hand side of the deflector dish. 3 decks are blasted wide open into the vacuum of space.
Yep.
Including deck 15 where...
Where Captain Kirk was.
Now, what did you say to me when this happened? Like, they go down to find Captain Kirk. They've got force fields up.
Yeah.
They look out into space. And what did you say to me?
I was like, did they just kill Captain Kirk?
You were shocked. Were you going to cry?
I was like, no, I was pissed.
Okay.
Because I was pissed because of how the movie started off. It seemed like a silly parody, and then all of a sudden they kill off Captain Kirk. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like it. So anyway, the people they did save are upset. They don't even want to be there. They want to go back. They're all like begging to go back.
They're begging to go back, and we see that two of the people they saved, as you said, hey, that's Alex DeLarge.
Alex DeLarge.
Alex DeLarge. Somehow he got from dystopian London to to Aluria.
Yeah.
And then we had Guinan.
And Guinan.
And Guinan was also, and all the people were distraught.
They were all.
They're all, now that is actually the Excelsior, but that is an
On
Eagle
the
Moss
Enterprise.
Excelsior. I do have the Enterprise-B, but it's upstairs.
Upstairs. Is it little like this?
No, it's big. It's really big, actually.
I like these little ones because you can play with them.
Yeah, we can play with the big ones, too.
Well, you need two hands to play with those. You only need one
I always
hand
say that.
to play with this one.
So anyway, Kirk is dead.
Kirk is dead.
And I have to say,
God damn it.
I have to say, the one thing about this movie that I at first it took me a while to get used to, but I really like it. Dennis McCarthy, the long time, there was kind of a rotating group of men like Dennis McCarthy and Jay Chataway and Ron. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? I keep wanting to say Ron Moore, but oh my God,
It doesn't matter. What
it doesn't
about
matter.
them?
Ron Jones.
Okay.
So they were the composers for Star Trek, and Dennis McCarthy was the longest running composer, and they brought him back to score this movie.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's a TV composer, and he was never my favorite. Ron Jones was Ron Jones was on the show from the first to the fourth season. I was never a huge fan of Dennis McCarthy's work. Some of it was good. He did a pretty great
He
job
did the music for which shows?
for Star Trek: The Next Generation, but they had rotating
Oh.
composers. But he scored this movie.
Okay.
And I do think that Dennis McCarthy's work in this film is one of the best elements of this. Also, the cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography looks much more cinematic. There's much more high contrast lighting, and it
Yeah.
really, you really get a. It's not like TV lighting. They really made it
Right.
look like a movie. So the
Yeah,
cinematography
it
is
looked
beautiful.
like a movie.
So then it cuts to 78 years later, and you're on the sailing ship Enterprise at sea,
Yeah.
and there's a whole ceremony where Worf is promoted.
Yeah. Worf is promoted on a ship, on an actual boat, on the holodeck.
Now, if I was producing this movie, I would have said, wow, this scene is nice. Do we really need it?
I thought it was goofy. Again, I was like, goofy again?
Now,
No.
why did you think it was goofy?
Okay, so they made Captain Kirk look goofy, and now they're making, the next generation look goofy.
You didn't think it was charming? Like, hey, we're on the
No.
holodeck doing some mirth-filled antics while we promote Worf to Lieutenant Commander.
No! Picard would never do something so silly.
You don't think so?
No. No.
Why do you say that?
I mean, he likes to have fun and go and do his mystery things on the holodeck, but
He
when
likes
it comes
Dixie,
to
he
a
plays Dixon
serious-
Hill.
When it comes to a serious thing like a ceremony, there's no way he would have done that on a ship on the holodeck.
Well, they do tell us things, like, for instance, when everybody gets promoted, apparently they do this all the time, and they even have a ritual where you have to see if you can get your hat without falling in the water. I mean, admittedly, that's kind of goofy.
It's goofy.
I mean, if you're going to go on the holodeck and do something like that, I understand they're bringing out the whole idea of Horatio Hornblower and the seafaringness of it all, but why don't they have, like, Worf fight, like, 10 dudes with his bat left to get that hat?
Ooh, yeah.
Or some monster.
Or some skeletal pirates.
Well, I mean, they do that. Season 2, you see him fight some skeletal dudes. But, I mean, they could have... But didn't you think it was kind of nice? You're outside. It's expansive. It's on a ship. You're seeing everybody in their finest seafaring.
Yeah, it was...
You didn't like it?
I didn't love it. I didn't
right.
love it.
You don't have to.
Yeah, and then, so...
And while they're doing this... And now I have to ask you this question. This is another thing This is why I think the Next Generation movies are not great. All four of them. All four of them are varying degrees of disappointing for me.
Well,
Now I have to ask you. I'm going to ask you a specific question about the scene. In this scene, after 7 seasons of Next Generation, Data is talking about humor and
Still.
not getting jokes.
Right.
I mean, this is harking back to the first 5
yes.
minutes of Encounter at Farpoint.
Right. I mean, throughout the series, it's all about how he doesn't get the jokes.
But, so this was really a throwback to, like, it seemed very retro. Like, you know what? If you haven't been watching Star Trek The Next Generation, let's give you some mirth-filled character development for Data.
Right. Right.
I've always hated that. I'm like, I'm like, what am I, stupid? When you've already watched 7 seasons of
we know this about Data.
But we also know that Data's, he might not quite understand humor, but he knows.
He starts getting what it means to humans, and so for him to make such a huge, mistake.
Do you think it was? What did you think of him pushing Beverly Crusher into the water?
I was like, what the hell? He wouldn't have done that.
Well, he acts like he does it because he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know that, perhaps I shouldn't push a woman dressed in these awesome costumes into the water who doesn't deserve to go. Do something unexpected, Data. Okay. I mean, what are you, Frankenstein? Like, I'm going to pick this girl up and drop her into the pond.
Yeah, no.
If you were Beverly, would you be pissed at him?
Totally.
All right.
You stupid android.
Please continue.
Okay, so then something happens and they have to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're done with the ceremony. Picard gets distressing
he gets a
news.
Personal
message.
He's very distressed. He leaves, and then they're all called onto the bridge because there's something going on.
There's an attack at the Armagosa observatory that is observing the Armagosa star.
That's right.
So the plot can kick in. We have 20 minutes of mirth-filled antics.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have real... Well, I mean, the plot's already kicked in. We have the spacefaring...
No. So now it becomes... Okay, so it starts off as goofy setup, killing off Captain Kirk, and now it's going into becoming an episode of Next Generation.
Right, yes.
The middle section is an episode of Next Generation.
Is it a good episode? Well, let's get to that.
I don't hate... I hate... Okay, let me rephrase that. There are some interesting moments. But there's a lot wrong with what's happening.
Oh, please continue. I mean, listen, you have to elucidate. You know, if you're going to say there's something wrong, we need details. You know, I need details. I'm gonna hammer you. I got to drill down into this. I mean, especially because, you know, you're literally in the middle of the Next Generation series.
Yeah.
And you've seen, when you go back, and I've been surprised, even watching the first season with you, I'd pop in and out. The first season, everybody talks about how bad it is, but what did you think about the first season of Next Gen, watching it again?
I didn't hate it because you kept saying, oh, you have to get through the first and second season. Oh, they're just so awful. And I was like, watching episode after episode, I'm like, this isn't so bad.
Well, I agree with you. There's some episodes that when you were looking at them first, but now going back, you can see their shortcomings. But when there's a good episode, I still like 11001001 with the binars. And remember, I said, I love this. The ending, you could have said no. And you laughed at the ending. Like, that episode's so good. And then you were laughing at that ending, and I'm like, but they could have said no. Like the binars, they're civilization.
They could have just asked.
But they couldn't have accepted the no. So in their own minds, they're like,
yeah, right.
It's too important for them to.
Silly, but I liked it.
We couldn't ask. It's because it's a good episode.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, just like a lot of episodes of the original series. It's a little silly, but good. Some of them are really silly.
Come on, man.
Come on, the hippies.
Stepping into Eden. Yay, brother.
Okay.
I'm going to clap my hands and jump for joy. I got a clean bill of health from Dr. McCoy. It is, after all, Star Trek Day. We can celebrate whatever we want.
Yes, we can.
So continue on, please.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this space station, or whatever it is, lab...
The Armagosa Observatory.
Is, has been attacked. And there's only 5, they discovered there's only 5
life forms.
Life.
So they send a away team over to see what happens, and it's a mess.
It's a disaster, and Well, first of all, they beam up the 5 survivors.
But while they're there, they find a Romulan, a dead Romulan.
They do.
And they find Dr. Soran.
They do.
Dr. Tolian Soran, played by Malcolm McDowell, Alex, who, by the way, hasn't aged a day, even though it's almost 8 decades later. Mm-hmm. You know, and he gets brought onto the Enterprise, and, you know, he kind of is hanging out.
Yeah, no, he desperately wants to talk to Captain Picard. And, excuse me. He needs to get back. He needs to get back to the...
He has a very important experiment going on.
Yeah, that he needs to complete within 12 hours, or else all of his work will be for nothing.
For nothing. And then we also see that Guinan sees him at 10 forward. By the way, 10 forward, what's great about this is we've never seen as many people in 10 forward since yesterday's Enterprise as we see in 10 forward, because they have money for extras. And I really like the idea that 10 forward is packed with extras, you know, and the lighting is beautiful coming in from the Armagosa star. And we do see Guinan respond to Tolian Soran like she didn't know he was there, but they knew each other because they were both on that refugee ship.
Right. And so, of course, Picard is distraught, so he doesn't really want to deal. And
by the way, that's another thing I don't like about this movie. I mean, I understand you've just met his brother Robert and his son Rene, and Robert's wife, and you've just met them in the episode Family, the second episode of the 4th season of Next Generation, and hearing they're dead is truly tragic.
It is tragic.
And yet, but he mopes around. He can't quite get out of it.
And that is so not Picard.
No.
Especially when there's a crisis.
Yeah, there's something going on. Picard's like, yeah, you handle it, Riker. Snaps at Riker.
That wouldn't happen.
But then, you know, you have to have the Deanna scene where she comes in, what's wrong? And
of course.
You have to have the scene where they...
she looks surprised when she sees that he's emotional. And it's like, wouldn't she feel his emotions?
Yeah, she would. Yeah. And then, of course, there's the goofy photo album with the holographic edges.
Right?
I mean, it's the 24th century.
I thought it was sparkly edges. I'm like, oh, he was scrapbooking.
Well, no, yeah, it was like the carved, yeah. I mean, and he's looking at photographs that were like, is that because...
Well, that's goofy, because even in episodes of The Next Generation, it was almost like when they showed photographs, it was on basically their iPads.
Right.
And so how come now it's a stupid album?
Well, because I got the idea that Rene, because Picard is old school, he likes his Shakespeare, maybe Rene made him that photo album to be old school. So, but it is a little goofy, but that's in my mind, in my head canon, Elizabeth, the canonical explanation I have for this is that Rene made it as a gift for Picard.
That makes sense. Okay, I can buy that.
Because it's old school. Probably, you know, it's like when your daughter gets a Polaroid camera from the 70s. Like, I'm going to go take Polaroids.
Right.
Of course, this Polaroid camera would be 2.5 centuries old, but okay. Somebody makes film for it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can replicate the film. Holographic film, you never know.
Anyway.
So Picard, by the way, is feeling bad. Like he's
feeling bad.
And he's thinking about family and all that, which... Again,
but Alex DeLarge goes to see him anyway and explains that he has to get back to the
Armagosa observatory.
Right, the observatory. And Picard just blows him off. He's like, well, if we're not done investigating, whatever.
Well, and also, I mean, they find out about trilithium, which is a theoretical substance the Romulans have been apparently experimenting with. And they talk about that, and they basically send another away team over to the Armagosa observatory to see if there's any evidence of trilithium. And here's another thing about this movie. So they beam onto the observatory, which is wrecked.
Wait, before that happens...
Oh, yes, big thing, sorry.
Data feels so bad he doesn't have feelings yet, but he decides that he needs feelings so that he never does anything like that, what he did to Dr. Redhead...
Dr. Crusher.
Crusher again.
And another thing, like, they've had this emotion chip during the series, and in this movie, the emotion chip looks nothing like it looks in the series. It looks like...
What chip? Oh, yeah, the
emotion chip.
Right.
So the emotion chip in Next Generation is this little tiny thing, but in the movie, it's this big giant...
This big giant thing.
It's like the steampunk version.
How is there room in his head
I don't
know. Anyway, and how did they get it back from his evil twin brother?
You know what? There's a lot of questions.
I was like, well, I don't think the evil twin brother would just hand it over.
Well, no, they had it. He contemplated it in the series.
Oh.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay, I see. Okay, so he asked Geordi to put the emotion chip in. So
The funny thing is, the very reason Data wants this emotion chip in is emotional. Because
Right.
Data's like, I feel bad. I feel
Yeah.
bad about what I've done to Dr. Crusher. So clearly, he's displaying emotional tendencies.
he's starting to,
And he's like, yo, Geordi, I feel bad about what I've done. So maybe not thinking that I'm a sentient life form, I'm an artificial life form, but I'm feeling my own emotions for doing something bad to my friend, for being a dick.
Plus, by then, like, he's been on the Enterprise for how long at this point?
A long time. He's
So-
had girlfriends.
and he's always learning, and so why wouldn't he start to know emotions at that point on his own?
it's all very. The writing, God love Ron Moore and Brandon Braga, but the storyline of this movie is really, I would say, lackluster, and this idea, they're just forcing these ideas into the movie. I understand a lot of pressure happening, but
So anyway, Geordi puts the emotion chip.
I
in his
don't
brain.
think this would be the best time to try the emotion chip. The
Right.
Armagosa observatory has been attacked. Tully and Soran's there. They found dead Romulans. Whatever. Let's now use my emotion chip. Why don't we wait till we have to go 2 weeks from a
but
voyage
wait,
from
did
one
he
planet
put
to
it
another?
in before they discovered this or after? I
Well,
don't remember.
it might have been right after, but either way,
Yeah, so anyway, they put the emotion chip in, and then Data becomes really annoying.
life forms. Well, that was in the show.
Oh,
Hello.
no, that
I'm
that
Mr.
part
Tricorder.
was, no, that was so annoying. But like when he starts singing the Life Form song, Life Forms,
Yeah,
and he's like,
Dun,
I
dun,
actually,
dun, dun,
I
dun.
actually really liked that part.
But I mean, what's really interesting is Data having his emotion chip put in could have been the basis for an entire Star Trek movie.
Yes, yes.
Like
yes,
if you
yes,
read
yes.
David Mack's trilogy of books, he did the Cold Equations trilogy. He's one of my favorite Star Trek writers. He's a consultant on Lower Decks and Prodigy, even though I don't know why he's a consultant and not the head writer, but that's neither here nor there. You could write an entire thing about Data getting his emotions and what happens to him.
Yes.
I mean, you could have him do. It could be like Lost Weekend. Data becomes a total alcoholic.
Yes.
But in this, they play it. I mean, he gets, and again, rather than make it sort of interesting, it's like, this is revolting. He goes to 10 forward and drinks.
Right. That was so
It
goofy.
becomes everything is goofy.
It's like
in this
goofy
movie.
again. I'm like, what? What is this goofy stuff? So anyway, then he starts like laughing uncontrollably. It's so annoying. I guess that was the point.
Well, he starts laughing uncontrollably when they go back to look for
they're
Trilithium.
yeah, and come on, man, Data is a really intelligent being. Like he would know not to
Also,
lose control.
when they go back to the Armagosa Observatory, they find, there's a secret door.
Yeah.
And behind the secret door is photon torpedoes and trilithium.
Yeah, and he's laughing at a 7-year-old joke.
Right, but they're scanning they didn't. Geordi's like, look, open sesame. I can Data. It's so. I mean, what this does is it shows our people. Our people look incompetent. I don't like.
Yes.
I don't like
I
when
don't like
Star
that
Trek
either.
characters are made to look stupid for the plot, which is kind of like every episode of Discovery. And as we saw in today's 3rd season preview, they leaned into that. Yeah, dysfunction is the name of our game. They actually said that.
You're kidding.
No, they made a joke about the dysfunctional crew of the Discovery. I hope they all fucking die. Anyway. I mean, what was great? What's great about Discovery? We know in short treks, one day the Discovery is just going to be hanging out in some nebula cloud empty. By itself. The AI that controls the Discovery is going to... That's the Star Trek episode I want to see. I want to see a Star Trek Discovery episode where the camera just pans down the empty Discovery, where it's just serene, because that would be better
why?
writing.
Because you know where they all will be? In the Nexus ribbon.
They'll have the Nexus. And yeah, that's right, because the Nexus ribbon is still there.
Right.
The Discovery just flew through the Nexus, and everybody got to go where they wanted to go.
That's right.
Except the poor AI that couldn't go anywhere. Anyway, we don't want to digress and make this a Discovery bashing session.
Well, I stopped watching after two episodes.
Now, it's Star Trek Day. Let's celebrate everything. We celebrate all forms of Star Trek. IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. So while they're on this observatory, Dr. Soran suddenly randomly beams on board,
Yes.
like from the Enterprise,
Right.
and with his, I have to say, this really menacing weapon that doesn't seem very practical because before you fire it, it has to go zzz, it goes down. So it's not like...
Yeah, and it looks like that's like an eye, like where you look through to shoot, and but it's not.
It looks like
it's like so goofy.
But then he starts shooting he shoots up.
Yeah, at Geordi and
Data gets scared
Data's scared. He can't even do anything.
And then, for a shocking turn of events, who shows up in their Klingon bird of prey?
Who? I don't know.
Lursa and B'Etor.
Okay.
Our favorite
names.
Our favorite sisters from Sins of the Father. Well, you haven't got up to the end of season 4. But our favorite Klingon women.
Yeah, they're pretty funny.
I love Lursa B'Etor, and it turns out, wow, Dr. Soran is in league with the women that tried to steal the Klingon Empire, which you haven't got up to the end of season 4 yet, but it's coming.
I'm almost there.
I know you are. Redemption Part 1 and 2. So Lursa and B'Etor are there, and although why they're not wearing their hot red armor like they had in Sins of the Father, they're wearing traditional Klingon armor.
Yeah, but it's got a cutout and like.
Well, yeah, but I like
lots of cleavage.
A lot of cleavage. But you know what? There's this moment where there's this great moment where B'Etor is like talking to, after they beam him back. They have a firefight. Worf and Riker come over. They try and get Geordi and Data back.
Right.
But Tully and Soran beams away with Geordi.
Yeah, because he's fascinated by his visor. So yes, he takes him with him to the Klingon ship.
Yes, and it turns out that he's in league with them because he needs the trilithium to blow up stars.
Right.
Because he wants to blow up stars to change the course of the Nexus ribbon.
Right.
So rather than fly a ship into it...
Oh, wait. And that's another thing. Picard goes to see Guinan to find out what's the deal with this guy. And she explains to him what the Nexus ribbon is. And she says, if you ever experienced it, you will never want to leave it. This is an important part.
Yes, you'll never want to leave it.
Because this just so...
Now, let me ask you this. As a science fiction concept, Star Trek has a lot of energy anomalies. The Enterprise is always encountering many energy anomalies. But this asks you to believe that a spacefaring energy anomaly that can destroy starships can also somehow read a sentient being's mind and provide a universe and a whole place where this where you or I or anybody, we go into this energy ribbon and somehow it reads our minds and it can create the reality that we want.
Right. And she's like, you feel pure joy that you never want to leave.
Well, this would assume that there is some kind of intelligence. Either the energy ribbon itself is telepathic and it likes to provide this, or perhaps some advance like the Krell from Forbidden Planet made this energy ribbon. I just think that if this thing, it's a horrible waste of such an amazing thing to have it be a spacefaring ribbon that travels around the universe. Like, if it really can read minds, I would assume that the purpose of it would be to read minds. So why would you want it traveling space all by itself? Well, how is it going to have any minds to read?
Well, it's got to pick up some hitchhikers.
Yeah, but how? I mean, that's a lot of ground to cover before you find somebody. And if somebody comes up with a ship and says,
maybe that's just a.
My question is, did you buy this conceit? Did you buy that a spacefaring energy ribbon also can read the minds of sentient beings such as yourself and provide an entire life that you missed? So not only does it read your mind, it knows what your hopes and dreams and foibles and fallacies and all your whole past history and gives you the thing that you most want in life.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that part.
Really? Because I think it's fucking dumb as fuck.
I didn't really have a problem with that part. I mean, it's kind of like a holodeck on wheels.
But it's flying through space, and it
right.
destroys.
It's
It
a
destroys the
flying
ships that are
holodeck.
carrying the very people whose minds it can read.
Yeah. So then how did those two ships get stuck in it? How did they not get destroyed?
I don't know, but apparently all of them got pulled into the Nexus. We know that. They were
Right.
all in there fluctuating in and out.
And that's another thing. Once you're in it, you can go to where you want. Any time, any place that you want.
I'd go to Dave and Buster's with a whole pocket full of quarters.
But see, that creates a huge problem with their story. A huge problem!
Okay, Elizabeth.
With their story.
Why does that create a huge problem?
Because, okay, so this guy Soran is so upset that he lost his family to the Borg. Borg destroyed his wife and his children. And then he finds the Nexus and he loves it, and it makes him, it nullifies, like, it's like a drug. It keeps his emotions, he feels whatever, numb.
He wants to be George Clooney and Solaris.
Right.
He wants his wife back.
Exactly. He wants his wife back. So if you're in the Nexus,
So Soren, all he had to do was go to the planet Solaris. He could have done the same thing. But
no. If you're in the Nexus and you can go anywhere you want, why didn't he go and rescue his family from the Borg before they attacked?
Well, because the Enterprise-B beamed him away before he could do that.
But we don't know how long they were in there.
But
And time means nothing when you're in there.
It's true. Well, hey, these are all very good questions.
He could have just gone and saved his family.
Now, let me ask you something. When you were watching this movie, I could tell these questions were arising in your mind. You're like, wait, what? You kept going like, what? I mean, you had these questions. Was this interfering in your enjoyment of the film? Because these are very good questions to ask.
Yes, because there shouldn't be weird things that you that don't make sense like that.
Oh, I agree. Wholeheartedly. And that's why this is a bad science fiction movie.
Yeah, and then when Picard and Kirk go back to stop him.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Kirk? We haven't even got there yet. What are you talking about? Kirk?
Kirk is dead.
Is Kirk in this movie?
No, he's dead, remember?
Riding horses and talking about a woman we've never met, and he has a dog.
Yeah, and so, wait, that's the reality that he would create? I don't think so.
No, the reality he would create is he's on the bridge of the Enterprise commanding the ship again.
Yeah, with beautiful alien women surrounding him.
No, he would have Spock and McCoy, and everybody would be there, and he would be probably 34 years old again when he first took command.
Right, he would not be in some wooden cabin in the woods, chopping wood, and thinking about proposing to some woman.
Named Antonia. That we've never heard of. And he's cooking eggs. I mean, he does know how to use a whisk pretty well.
He burned the eggs the first time, though.
No, the eggs were burned because he didn't know. He'd just gotten into the Nexus. He didn't know eggs were cooking.
Oh.
That's why he walks in, because remember, Guinan says...
You're supposed to whisk the eggs before you cook them, not as they're in the pan.
Well, no, he whisked them... We saw him.
He was whisking them in the pan as they were cooking.
No, remember he cracked the eggs and then he's whisking them when he cracked the eggs. He wasn't cooking them yet.
Yes, he was. They were on the stove.
I mean, I think we don't necessarily need to document the rest of the plot. I think we should just talk about things that you thought about the movie because, I mean, everyone's seen it already. I mean, I think what's really interesting...
I hadn't seen it until,
we didn't see it until...
half an hour ago.
Yeah, so that's what I'm more interested in these...
Well, yeah, we just skipped over a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, so they've got... everything but the kitchen sink is in this movie. You got Blurson and B'Etor, they brought them back.
And what's with Picard's reality? Come on, man. What is he, Charles Dickens?
Well, apparently, yes.
And he hates kids. Why does he have 5 kids?
Well,
he hates kids.
Now, in all seriousness, though, these are very cogent points that you're making. So I'm curious, how did this hit you when you were watching it?
I was like, this is dumb. So Picard would choose in his mind Christmas and a wife that's dressed like she's in...
And kids that are dressed like they're in the 19th century.
Yes, Papa. Thank you, Papa, for this wonderful doll.
I mean, you'd think that, he would want to go meet the Iconians when they're at the height of their empire, or something like... The problem with this film, I think...
There's a lot of problems with this
There's
film.
a lot of problems with it. It's the worst kind of science fiction. It's horrible melodrama
Yeah.
I mean, after you've watched 7 years of Next Generation, even when it's hit and miss, when Next Generation is at its heights,
hit and miss.
well, yeah, it's hit and miss, mostly hit, okay, but when you watch this and you're like, this is not great science fiction.
No, it's not.
Because it's not servicing the characters that we already know.
Right.
All of the
Yeah,
characters.
it makes them all look bad.
It makes them all look bad.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. So tell me more about the film. I mean, as you get into it, like, again, you meet. I have real problems. Like Tolian Soran's. He has an Estes model rocket that I used to build when I was in elementary school, and he's going to fire it at the sun and blow up a sun.
Right.
I mean, what's really interesting about this is like when he does this, it takes light at 186,000 miles per second. It takes light 8 minutes to go from the sun to the Earth.
Right.
And this rocket, this little rocket that you launch from the surface,
11 seconds.
yeah, as soon as it gets up, it's going to take 11 seconds, and then whatever it does to the sun happens instantaneously. This
Right.
trilithium.
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that should take
11
months.
seconds?
Months to occur. And then not only that, but the sun contracts or blows up or whatever it does, and immediately the gravitational pull of the entire sector is altered. And what I cannot stand, and this happens so often in modern Star Trek, is science goes out the window. Even as an 8-year-old kid, if I saw this when I was 8, I'd be like, bruh. Like, you can't just fire a model rocket at the sun, and as soon as it gets up to where the clouds are, the sun blows up. That's not how it works.
You could shoot a rocket to the moon, and it could poke it in the eye.
It could, that's about the level of realism that this movie has. Because, you go into the spacefaring energy ribbon that can read your mind, and suddenly you're in a Dickens novel. You're not
Of
even
all
like...
the things, that's not what he would... That's not the reality he would choose.
And it's not what James Kirk's reality would be either.
No, not at all.
I own this cabin. I was here 9 years ago.
Yeah.
You were not. You were in space, motherfucker. You were not in a cabin in the woods.
No.
Come on.
No. Both of those men did not want to be on Earth. They wanted to be in space.
Yes. Yes, they
Yeah.
did.
So goofy. And what's with the turtlenecks? They really love putting turtlenecks on them.
Well, when dudes get older,
They wear turtlenecks.
Turtlenecks, I like Kirk's outfit. I thought Kirk's outfit was cool.
I thought it was cool because the turtleneck looked like
Well,
marshmallows.
that harks back
it
to,
looked
but that goes all the way
futuristic.
back to Star Trek 2.
Like they all, every time, I always think like, man, they gotta be so hot. They've got a turtleneck on and they have a wool jacket.
Well, that
A
was
turtleneck and a wool jacket.
one of the most frustrating things for me as a longtime Star Trek fan is when Nicholas Meyer decided everyone had to wear pea coats on the bridge. Like, it's one thing if you're on the conning tower of the hunt for the Red October in the North Atlantic,
Right.
and you're Marco Ramius and you're wearing a pea coat because it's cold and it's hard out there. But on the bridge of the Enterprise in Star Trek 2, let's wear wool pea coats and then have
With
turtlenecks
turtlenecks.
underneath and a big belt. People complain about Star Trek the Motion Picture, but that made sense. The Next Generation.
I don't remember what they were wearing.
Well, they were wearing like pajamas, but they were comfortable.
Yeah, you have to be comfortable because you have to be like ready to move at any moment.
Right, you got to be ready to rock. And wearing a wool or pea coat, not the way to go.
No.
And these are decisions. I mean, there's you have to accept them as Star Trek fans, but there's a lot of decisions that have been made. For instance, the uniforms in Discovery, the disco blue and the metal piping. What is that? I don't even know.
I haven't watched it, so
It's
I couldn't
Not
get
good.
past the Klingons with all their weird. They couldn't even move their
Talk.
lips. I was like, "What is this?"
yeah. So okay, Lursa and B'Etor shoot down the Enterprise with all this resonance techno babble.
Oh, right. I thought that was cool when they take down the Enterprise.
You did?
Well, I just thought it got exciting at that point.
Well, it did get exciting. 'Cause
And I thought it was kind of cool how they bugged Geordi's visor and were able
which,
to...
by the way, had been done in an episode of Next Generation already.
Oh, I
So,
haven't gotten to that one yet.
yeah, no, you haven't gotten to that one yet, but they've already done that.
Oh, God. Really?
They already bugged his visor. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a cool idea.
It wasn't the Klingons, but they bugged his visor.
They couldn't come up with an original idea. Anyway, I was pissed that they destroyed the Enterprise. Pissed.
You didn't. Well, yeah.
Although I have to say, when the saucer section lands on the planet, that was way cool.
I will say this. I mean, as a fan of miniature effects, that was a miniature effect. They had a giant miniature of the saucer section of the Enterprise.
Really?
Yeah, I love that.
That looked really cool.
I love when they crashed the Enterprise saucer, because that's what I would do if I was like 7 years old and had a big train set. Like my friend Jeff Swafford, we loved to crash airliners, anything that came out of the. We had this big train set, and it was so much fun to crash like an airliner and have it hit trains and things. And watching the Enterprise, the saucer section hit trees and knock them down. Come on,
that
I love
cool.
that.
But then as soon as it stopped, I was like, "What the hell? They destroyed the Enterprise!"
And apparently, there's like glass. There's glass. Oh,
well,
hey,
the skylight.
wait, the glass skylight broke.
It broke.
We're in the vacuum of space, and apparently...
Well, it broke when it...
Yeah, but there's a lot of other glass. Lots of stuff fell out of the ceiling. There's glass everywhere. What happened to transparent aluminum, yo? What's up? Glass. And the Kurlan Neskar from The Chase. Well, you haven't got there yet either. One of the things that this movie irks me to no end is this incredible archaeological find that Dr. Quace... Is it Dr. Quace, I think? Gives to Picard... Or that's Beverly Crusher's. I don't remember.
That's
Norman Lloyd gives Picard this incredible archaeological thing, and he has it when you see he's looking for his nephew's photo album, but no, this priceless archaeological thing. He just was like, what is it? Throws it aside. It's just a quick thing, but I hate it.
When does he throw it?
When they're looking through the wreckage of the Enterprise at the end. You wouldn't know.
Throws it aside to find his photo album.
Yeah, it's a 6-season episode. You haven't got there yet, but if you got there, you'd be like, as an artist, you'd be like, what? The Kurlan Neskar? What?
That's crazy.
So, what else? I have to tell you, we have a letter. When we changed, there's a letter about this movie. I think we should read the letter.
Okay.
I got to put on the old man glasses,
I didn't know we were done talking about it.
We're not done talking about it, but I think this letter is actually about generations. So I think it's going to help us talk more about it.
Okay.
And we're already an hour into the show anyway, so. Greetings, Elysabeth and Rob. Oh, by the way, this comes from Eric Gant.
Okay.
Writing in with some thoughts on Star Trek Generations. While I'm not a fan of the movie, I look forward to hearing your views on it. For me, it's a mixed bag. Here are a few things that I enjoy and a few things that bug me about this film. I'll start with the good. The Enterprise-B. I was never fond of the Excelsior starship design introduced in Search for Spock, but the tweaks that were added to turn it into the new Enterprise won me over. Something about the flared secondary hull just strikes me as more appealing than the dumpy, clumsy look of the Excelsior.
Yeah.
Or as I like to call it, the AMC Pacer of space. The update of the design is more sexy. The Enterprise-D interior shots. It was a joy to see the Enterprise-D on the big screen. The bridge, 10 forward, and even the corridors all seemed larger and more realistic in the movie, and I loved it. The saucer separation scene in particular did an outstanding job of illustrating what sets the Galaxy class apart from the more utilitarian ships in the fleet. Watching the highly trained, proficient Starfleet officers racing through engineering, Jeffries tubes and corridors in a desperate bid to avert disaster was thrilling. And watching their interaction with the terrified civilian population during the crisis really drove home the fact that the ship isn't just a military vessel, but instead a strange but awesome hybrid of luxury cruiser and state-of-the-art warship. Did you feel that way?
I wouldn't call it a luxury cruise.
Well, he's just using it as a metaphor.
But yeah, I love how they showed the families and the kids, and yeah.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Number 3, Kirk. Now and forever, Shatner's James T. Kirk is Star Trek. Star Wars has Luke Skywalker, DC has Superman, Marvel has Spider-Man, and Star Trek has Captain Kirk. Seeing him on the big screen during the film's first sequence was pretty awesome. When the Enterprise-B first encounters the energy ribbon, you can actually feel Kirk's inner turmoil as he watches the green, untested Captain Harriman, you mean the idiot Captain Harriman, try to deal with the emergency. On one hand, Kirk knows that his decades of experience make him more qualified to handle things, but at the same time, those decades of experience have also given him the wisdom to recognize that usurping Harriman's authority could crush the crew's morale and destroy a potentially solid Starfleet officer. Kirk seems almost to vibrate from his efforts to restrain himself, and when Harriman finally has the sense to ask Kirk for help, Kirk's relief is palpable. Shatner acted his ass off during that scene. To cap it all off, his heroic demise during that sequence carried a real emotional punch. In my opinion, that was a fitting end for a hero of Kirk's stature. If the writers could have somehow made that the end of the film, I think it would have improved the movie by a considerable margin. What do you think about that?
I don't know. They made him look so goofy right before that, so
That's a good point.
I don't know. Kirk deserved a much better. If he had to die, which I don't think he had to. Why? What's the point? Why kill off Kirk? Why?
I'm with you.
But if he has to die, it should have been something pretty amazing.
Well, now Eric goes on, and he says, which brings me to the bad. And his number one bad thing is Kirk. While Kirk's death was saving the Enterprise-B delivered an emotional punch, the blow was softened by the fact that we all knew he'd be returning later in the film. In that first sequence, Kirk is awesome. His appearance in the second half, however, is pretty boring. On top of that, we never get the fan service I was looking forward to. How would Riker, Crusher, or Worf react to meeting a Starfleet legend? I don't know about you, but the idea sounds awesome to me. Mm-hmm. But instead of seeing Kirk interact with the bridge crew of the Enterprise-D, we got the Nexus.
That's true. That would have been much better.
Right. So you down with that?
With Kirk meeting the rest of the crew?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Can you imagine
to have him on the bridge of the Enterprise-D?
Bruh.
The B. Who cares about the B? We don't know anything about the B.
But we know about the D.
Yeah, we know about the D.
We know when the Enterprise drops the D, it's all good.
When it drops the D.
That's what I'm
How
talking
come
about.
Kirk wasn't on the D.
Kirk is always on the D. He just wasn't on the D in this particular film. The Nexus. Don't get me wrong, I can totally accept the Nexus as a concept, but the way it was depicted was pretty shitty.
So shitty.
Picard's little Christmas fantasy was lame, as was Kirk's ranch house scenario. The Nexus was a neat idea, but poorly executed.
So bad. I mean, if this is a place that nobody wants to leave, come on. Like when he's first in it, when Picard first is in it and all the lights are like twirling around him, I'm like, oh, he's going to land in like a discotheque or something really
Something
cool.
on Risa where you can like bang cocktail waitresses. He pull a Fredo.
Right? But
yeah,
no.
2 at a time. That's also a Paramount movie, so you could make a reference to The Godfather. He likes Dixon Hill, so why wouldn't he also like The Godfather?
Exactly.
I mean, maybe Picard has fantasies about meeting Michael Corleone.
Maybe.
You never know.
You never know.
Why is it just Dixon Hill?
I don't know.
He doesn't just like to solve crimes. He likes to meet the, the dames of the 40s, 30s and 40s.
He does. I mean, he did, before Riker fell in love with Minuet, he was like, they were flirting.
They were
She was flirting with both of them.
Why do you think Picard wanted command of the Enterprise-D? Yeah, okay. Kirk's real death. After the heroic sacrifice of the film's opening sequence, the final demise of James Tiberius Kirk was painfully anticlimactic,
Yes.
falling off a bridge to die alone on a
So
deserted rock with
dumb.
no one to bear witness but Picard. Come on, man. Really?
Come on, man.
Come on,
Exactly
man.
right.
Eric knows what's up.
Yeah, you do.
Final verdict, 2.5 glasses out of 4. Now, this is the kind of letter we like here at Elysabeth.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes. Right on with that letter.
Okay, now I didn't mean to cut you off. If you have more to say, there's a lot more to say about the film. It's Star Trek Day. We can go as long as we want.
Oh yeah. Okay. So when they're in the Nexus, okay. So it's supposed to be this place that nobody ever wants to leave, and Soran was so desperate to get back there that he was willing to kill millions of people.
Blowing up stars.
And killing millions of people, destroying several planets.
I mean, unless you're like Mr. Uxbridge and you're a Dowd and you destroy all the Husnock everywhere, I would say the second biggest crime in the galaxy is to blow up stars.
Right, and plus he's from what is Guinan? She's
an Allurian. They listen.
Allurians listen. They're peaceful people. They're very knowledgeable people.
Well, they're
empathetic people. They're listeners.
They're listeners.
So what the hell is he doing? If Nexus is that great, then it should have been great. But they didn't make it look great at all.
Well, they made it look small.
They made it look dumb. Who wants to live in some cabin in the woods?
I mean, you'd think Picard would be, as a man, like if you're Picard and you love Shakespeare or whatever, like you would be Hamlet, or maybe not Hamlet. You'd be a character from some Shakespearean play. Henry V. Like he'd be in the Nexus giving the St. Crispin's Day speech.
Right.
We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Wouldn't that be cool?
They gave him 5 kids. He does not like kids.
Apparently the Nexus can short circuit and all. It might not know what's best for you.
I mean, I can understand them giving his nephew back, Renee, because to carry the family name.
And
he
his
had
brother.
a relationship with the kid. But to give him 5 kids when he doesn't even like kids.
And why not bring Samantha Eggar back to play, Robert's wife?
And another thing, okay, so Soran spends 80 years or whatever trying to get back to the Nexus, doesn't save his family when he can. So they're in the Nexus. It's lame that within 5 minutes, both Picard and Kirk are like, this is not reality. This is kind of boring. I'd rather be on a starship. It took them 5 minutes.
Of looking at, and Picard, all he had to do was look at a few, Hallmark Christmas ornaments. I mean, now there's Hallmark Christmas ornaments that have better lighting effects than the exploding star effects in those Christmas ornaments.
Meanwhile, Soran, who is 300 years old and has experienced a lot of life, thinks that this is great and is willing to kill millions of people to get there.
Yeah, you'd think that also he'd figure out an easier way than to destroy stars and disrupt, to move. The funny thing about it is,
according to him, he told Picard, this is the only way.
Well, yeah, and also when he finally does get sucked up by the Nexus, I mean, here's a funny thing that we forget in the movie, and this is my, I have a huge problem with this film.
No, really?
The Nexus rolls over. Remember, when Picard goes into the Nexus, so does Soran.
Yeah.
He's
exactly.
in the Nexus.
He's in there.
He's in the Nexus, so Soran is off. He succeeded.
Yeah, he's in there.
Now Picard goes out and Soran is gone.
Yeah, why doesn't he go seek him out?
Picard's gone back in time. He's like, we got to stop Soran from doing this. Our Soran,
and that's another thing.
Soran's already in the Nexus. He's gone. What you're doing is basically...
So was Kirk, and Kirk apparently was there for 80 years.
Right, but what I'm saying is that Soran's in the Nexus, so Picard wanting to go out and save Kirk...
He wants to go back in time.
But you could say that whole thing is a Nexus fantasy. He never left the Nexus. In fact, he's still in the Nexus. Nothing we've seen, if you really want to think about it, canonical Star Trek after this movie... There was no First Contact. There was no insurrection. There was no... Star Trek Picard is a Nexus fantasy. Because Captain Picard never left the Nexus. Why would he? Because once you're in the Nexus, you can go wherever you want because the Nexus provides.
Right.
He's never left.
That's right.
Captain Picard is still in the Nexus.
He is.
All of Star Trek that deals with Captain Picard. And my God, if I would love... you could make me love Alex Kurtzman if Picard realizes at the beginning of Picard Season 2 he's been in the Nexus the entire time.
That would be
the last
awesome.
26 years of canonical Star Trek was a Nexus fantasy because Picard was never able to leave. Everything he's been in the whole time, just a fantasy. And by the way, change my mind.
That is great. Oh,
because you can't just, once you're in the Nexus, the fact that you can step out, Elurians, they got beamed out. They and time, so they had been in there back and forth, they got beamed out. Picard never got out of the Nexus. The Enterprise-D was destroyed. The entire crew of the Enterprise-D, they lost their lives. Viridian 3 was destroyed. That's it. Picard's been in the Nexus. And that's why Deanna Troi and Riker coming back in Star Trek Picard couldn't have happened because it's only a Nexus fantasy.
Although he can think up these people because he thought
he's in the Nexus.
In the Nexus.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants in the Nexus. That's why all of Star Trek, that's perhaps...
Yeah, but here's my question. If you're in the Nexus, but you're allowed to go back in time to any place, any time.
Because that's what the Nexus does. You can go anywhere you want.
But you're still in the Nexus
You're still
when
in the Nexus.
in those places?
No, you're in the Nexus
So
recreation of those places. You've never
so it's
left.
a recreation of those places. So then how did he stop what's his face from doing the whole thing in the first place?
He didn't.
He didn't.
That's a Nexus fantasy.
It's a fantasy.
It's a Nexus fantasy. He never, I mean, he met Kirk because, you know, the Echo of Guinan, whatever happened with the transporter, the Allurians that were on that ship, the 42 people they saved, the transporter device, somehow they left an echo of those people. Those people were like bifurcated. So the Nexus, a la Solaris, the Nexus had echoes of those people, but the actual people were pulled out of the Nexus. But if you go in the Nexus, you don't come out. I think this episode of Elysabeth has fundamentally changed the last 26 years of Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally...
Picard never left the Nexus.
He never left. That's why his show...
Neither did James Kirk.
It's just a fantasy. It's just a stupid fantasy. That makes me feel so much better.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except I'm really sad that everyone on the Enterprise is gone.
They're gone. Well, they died.
What? But I thought when the ribbon went over the planet, why wouldn't it take all of them too?
Because apparently the Nexus, when it's in space, it's gigantic. But when it rolls over a planet, as we saw, it only comes to like whatever dude, like
One high point?
It didn't go through the whole planet. It only rolled over the top. It was like a tumbleweed. The Nexus was a spacefaring tumbleweed.
So it missed the Enterprise?
Yeah, it missed the... Well, I mean, if you think about it, so if there's a spherical planet, right? And the Nexus ribbon is coming this way, and it rolls over the top of the planet. If the Enterprise is crashed over here, it missed the Enterprise. It just got where Soran is. I mean, look, all of it's ridiculous.
Well, we didn't see it, so maybe it did get them.
It could.
Maybe.
So, hang on. We got a lot of questions from people here. We got people writing in to us.
But the Nexus doesn't... So Picard is a fantasy, but that doesn't mean Discovery is, though. Discovery's not a fantasy.
Oh, see, I got to move over next to you. Ross, hang on. Let's go back to here. Let's see where we're at. 9 hours, 8 hours, 1 hour. Tim is here. Timbula the Spider Monkey. How are you, Tim? Bigger budget means bigger everything. Even Data's emotion chip got bigger. I never understood that. There wasn't much I liked about this film, but I did like the Enterprise-B.
Well, I like the way it looked on the outside. I thought the inside was lame.
Well, yeah, it was kind of... Yeah, well... Tim also goes on to say, also, I never understood why the Excelsior-class starship was still being used in Next Gen, but we hardly ever saw any other Ambassador-class ships except the Enterprise-C. Was the Ambassador-class the Enterprise equivalent of a Ford Pinto? No, I don't think so. You know, I think, look, you have to assume that spacefaring vessels... They probably lasted a long time because they're in the vacuum of space. So all you'd have to do is fix their internal components. So I didn't mind that. You know, I didn't mind that they used... I mean, think about it. When you're a spacefaring vessel, it's not like you're going back and forth. You're on a 5-year mission. The Enterprise was on like a 15-year mission, the Enterprise-D. So you go out there, and I didn't mind that. But look, they had to, from a production standpoint, they had to use the same models. So... Our boy Anthony Gonzalez is here. According to Guinan, the Nexus is so dope, you'll never want to leave.
Yep.
I think great minds think alike here, Elizabeth. Picard experiences it for 5 minutes. He's out.
Yeah.
Talks to James T. Kirk for 5 minutes, and Kirk was ready to go. R.I.P. Barbara Marsh. But Elizabeth, you'll get to see her in Deep Space Nine Season 1. Cheers. Barbara Marsh was one of the sisters.
Oh, okay, great.
Julius is here. Julius Goodwin is here. Hello, Julius. Is it just me, or should the meet between Picard and Captain Kirk have felt somehow more epic than it actually was?
Yes.
There is one epic moment when Kirk is able to move his horse sideways because Shatner is such a great horseman and walks up to Picard. You even comment how dope.
Wow.
That is
was
dope
cool.
horsemanship, but that's about as epic as it gets. Is it just me, or should the meeting between Picard and Captain Kirk have felt somehow more epic than it actually was? Perhaps it should have been held back from the original trailers as a surprise. Meeting the Captain something like Captain America picking up Mjolnir. Yeah, but it was called Star Trek Generations. I mean, they had to sell the movie based on that. But I don't disagree with you, Julius. They should have held it back. But they did want to make the cover of Time, which they kind of did. Julius says, on another note, as far as the fires go, please be careful. From space, your state looks like the biblical hell. Though, to be fair, you should now have enough wine on hand to put it out. Hell, you've got enough to sink an aircraft carrier if needed. I don't know about that.
I don't know. Wouldn't the alcohol in the wine make it stoke the fire? I don't know.
I don't know if there's enough alcohol, but yes, it's true.
I think if we drink the wine while that place is burning down, we won't feel so bad.
I mean, between Julius and Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man.
My Island Man.
You know, I separated out all the whites. I put them up we got to put them in the refrigerator, but there's no room.
Oh, okay.
So and then I put
we'll
some up
room.
there, and I've you know.
You put some in here?
Yeah, they're
Don't
up there.
keep that in here. It's going to turn into vinegar.
No, because does it feel hot now?
Yeah, it's hot in here.
It's pretty good. Come on now. We will be careful though. Tell Julius it's not.
Yeah, we're going to be careful.
It's not. It's not like. It's not the end of the world yet.
Nah.
It's not the end of the world yet. Anthony Gonzalez says, Rob, can you take a minute to explain, with all of this film's faults, why it's still better than JJ's Trek films? Because I think it is. Well, why don't you say that? Why do you think this movie might be better than JJ Abrams' Star Trek movies? Maybe you don't think it is.
I mean, I don't know. Why?
I have a reason. I have an answer. Because this movie has heart and love in it.
That's true.
The J.J. Abrams movies are cynical attempts at. There is no love, and there is no real heart in those movies. They're transposing other archetypes from other films, like Top Gun's Maverick, into Kirk. The Kirk in J.J. Abrams movies does not love at all, because there's no time for that. In those films, there's no compassion, there's no warmth. It's all plot, 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 plot. Cool, 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 cool. Attention deficit disorder effects. This film has moments in it where Deanna Troi sits down with Picard and they have a conversation. And Picard cries. And we understand it. It might not necessarily... This film does not hold together as a story at all. But it has scenes full of heart and full of emotion. The scenes between Picard and Shatner, ridiculous. But the conversations they have, don't let them promote you. When Shatner is trying to tell Picard, don't let him... There is true heart and true emotion. And I think that as much as I despise this movie for what it isn't, what it does have in it is love and heart and empathy and caring. And seeing Guinan talk to Picard... This is something that is beyond the stewards of modern Star Trek. Even today, they'll write some great rousing speech because they've watched all the Al Pacino speeches he's ever given, and they can put it in a trailer, but you don't feel it, you don't believe it. Although I have to say, credit where credit is due. Hearing Burnham give her speech, giving her Star Trek speech again, I'm like, I just don't believe she would be giving those speeches, but I like what she said, that trailer for season 3. So Anthony, there you go. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, at the time I was excited that the TOS cast was joining the Next Generation cast, that I love the film, and I saw it 3 times at the theater. Of course, I've always enjoyed Tell Him Jim, bonk, bonk on the head, and hail, hail, fire and snow. Still better than any Star Trek Discovery episode. That could be. Tell him, Jim. Tell him, Jim. Tell him, Jim. Tell him, Jim. Hey, Mary. Bonk, bonk on the head. Hey, Throgalicious Basimi is here. Well, actually, did Anonymous ask? I mean, you know, I saw this movie twice in the theater. And the first time I saw it at the Paramount lot, I I guess it was because, you know, if you want to read what I think is the definitive meeting of the generations, and I go back to a Star Trek novel. Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens' book, Federation, is full of deep dives into Star Trek canon, and it is by far a much, much, much better, more interesting, a better science fiction story. It's a much better yarn than this movie. And having read that book, all I can think about is if only they'd made that book into a movie. And again, I feel like I'm disparaging Ron and Brandon because they had a lot of work to do, and after doing all good things, they did a great job. I mean, let me ask you this. You're obviously falling in love with Star Trek again.
Yes.
How did you feel about the fact that you're bringing these two generations together, you're putting Kirk and Picard in the same frame, and this is what they gave you? How'd you feel about that?
I was disappointed because, I mean, the movie is called Generations. So to me, that's like all the generations from the first, you know, through the next generation. So that includes all of them. I thought it was going to be more, they were going to somehow, with time jumping or whatever, all the crews like work together, like they would do something together. But it wasn't. It was like split up into like, okay, so here's Kirk, and then he dies, and then here's a next generation episode, and then now Picard, only Picard and Kirk at the end. And I was like, wait.
And they're on a rock, on basically a bunch of, you know, lattice work that's been set up, girders, and
yeah,
and they're fighting on a mountaintop in the smallest way possible.
It's the smallest way possible.
I mean, this is the guy that, you know, between the two of them, between fighting the Borg or the Doomsday Machine or the Space Amoeba or the Galaxy's Child, I mean, Picard birthed an alien life form off the back of his ship.
Yes.
You know, and you would think that there would be something more 24th century. What I don't like about it is it just, when you take great science fiction characters and you put them in log cabins and you put them on horseback, while that might be fun, it reduces the imagination. It's like we couldn't think of something imaginative in a science fiction milieu.
Right.
So let's put them on horseback together.
Right.
Let's go back to it's frustrating.
Yeah, it was silly.
It was, and it's also goofy.
Yeah. Really goofy.
Throgalicious Bissimi sends in a tip and says, I think Jean-Luc Picard called a mulligan, to use a golf term, after this film. Really, what was the point of the whole crew being there? Mulligan. Movie hits like a real nasty food poisoning. Maybe this film is why he has a small head on the poster. You mean Shatner? I do think you're right about that. I mean, you have this great crew and this ensemble cast, and then it just comes down to Picard and Shatner not doing very much. I mean, I hate to say it, not to be ageist, but to put Shatner in a position where he's throwing punches on the side of a rock mountain as they're basically walking around on metal scaffolding it does not really serve Shatner as an actor well.
Right.
I mean, he's not 34 years old in this movie.
No.
And he's wandering around throwing punches, and I mean, watching these, it's three old guys too. You know, it's three old guys running around in the desert, the Valley of Fire in Nevada, throwing punches. I'm like, this is not what audiences really want to see.
No.
You know, they want to see intellectual prowess. They want to see, and Soran. I mean, he's firing literally Estes model rockets at the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
that can reach the sun in 11 seconds.
In 11 seconds, you couldn't even escape. It would take. It takes 11 seconds to get, well, 11,000 feet if it's 1,000 feet per second. That's a fast rocket. That's faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
I mean, even at how many times faster than the speed of light? 11? No. And that rocket did not have warp drive.
Apparently it did.
But this is what I don't like. I mean, as a savvy viewer understanding warp drive, and you think to yourself, okay, how far away from the sun are there? It's 11 seconds to launch this rocket. And then not only that, how long does it take? I mean, the sun's big.
Yeah.
Like if you were to
Right.
drop a bomb
That
in the
tiny
sun,
rocket, how is that going to...
and then the sun just contracts immediately.
Yeah.
It's just not good. Throgalicious, I like that. Calling him Mulligan. Ross Gecko sends in a super chat and says, Shatner's a great actor. With better choices and luck, he could have had Jack Nicholson's career. Imagine him in Terms of Endearment or About Schmidt. What roles would you have liked to see him play? You know what, Ross? That is having... I mean, you know, if I do say so myself, and since it is Star Trek Day, you know what I could do?
Yeah, but he was Denny Crane. Come on. Did you guys watch that? It was so good.
He did win 2 Emmy Awards.
Yeah. He was amazing as Denny Crane.
I mean, I could play... just to be self-serving.
You should.
Since you brought up Shatner, as many people know, I did write and direct, actually I co-wrote, but I directed and edited a film that starred William Shatner. Now, in my 2006 preferred version of the movie, there's a scene I added that was cut out of the film. And in honor of Star Trek Day, and since we're talking about generations, I'm going to play you this scene right now.
Awesome.
And it's a scene that I should never have taken out of the theatrical version because it paid off an earlier thing. But here, I'll play it for you now. You've already seen it many times today, but I'm going to play it anyway. Because why not? And here you go.
You gotta mix a little reality in with your imagination to achieve happiness in your life. And you've got to overcome your programming, which in your case is a 30-year-old television show. I mean, come on. Let me tell you a story. I was jogging one evening around my neighborhood and I came across a house on fire. And the crowd had gathered and the fire engines hadn't come yet. And the crowd all turned to me and said, oh, look, there's Captain Kirk. And this guy came running over, turned out to be the father. And he said, Captain Kirk, my child's in the burning building. Please, you gotta save my kid. Please go. So what was I gonna do, argue with him? I was Captain Kirk. So I found myself running into the burning building. Now I'm looking for the kid, and it's the fire and the smoke and the heat. And so I got down on my hands and knees because I had seen Rescue 911, and I was crawling around in the dark, and the smoke is in my lungs. I'm coughing. I can't see it, and I'm calling kid. Where are you, kid? No kid. Kid's not answering. I'm calling kid. Kid, no kid. And I'm dying. I mean, the flames are burning me up, so I gotta get out of there. So I'm coughing and hacking, the masonry's falling all around me, and I back out, and I get outside. And there I see the kid, playing on the lawn. Kid had jumped out of the window, father had caught him. He's playing on the grass, the father's fine, he's playing on the grass, the crowd is playing on the grass. The crowd all turn around, looking at me, there's Captain Kirk, they're all laughing at him. I felt like such an idiot. And then I realized, I'm not Captain Kirk. I'm not a hero. I didn't have the kid. I felt absolutely ridiculous. But I had to try.
So there you go. You know, what can I say? I love Shatner. But I think you're right, Ross. I think, you know, the entertainment business, so much of it is luck. And you have to be in things, I mean, that are considered or deemed worthy or cool by the powers that be. And I think Shatner has look, he's a classically trained actor. He loves humor. He loves comedy. I think finding Denny Crane was the best thing ever. Obviously, in The Practice and Boston Legal, it won him 2 Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
I think William Shatner is not just a good actor. I think he's a great actor.
He is.
And if you look at Star Trek, people make fun of Star Trek and the way he talks. But no. You go back and you watch the original series. You go back and watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Star Trek Through the Wrath of Khan. The guy's an incredible actor. And, you know, people might make fun of him. They don't give him his due. But I think you're right. I think Shatner could have been, he could have been like Nicholson. But you know what? Look what he did get. He's 89 years old. He's won 2 Emmy Awards. He's got a lot of people that still love him. He's made an indelible impression. He will never be forgotten. And his legacy looms large. Unless, of course, you're celebrating Star Trek Day and you make his picture the smallest that's on the poster. But, hey, look who's here. Belle Biv Throg DeVoe sends in a tip and says, "That girl is poison." Well, thank you for that, Throg. That's pretty. Hey, look who's here. Captain Brad Brickley.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Brad, one of the only imagination connoisseurs I've met in the wild. Roberto Suarez is another. Brad Brickley I met when we went to Wenatchee.
Yes.
We met him in Wenatchee. Brad Brickley is actually a real captain of a Western Washington ferry. Believe it or not, he is.
The Love Boat.
And Captain Brad says, John Byrne said this Nexus theory on his forum a few years back. I was like, yes, when I heard this. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing all right. Well, I hope you and your wife are doing all right. So he agreed with me that Picard never left the Nexus. I love that idea, which means Shatner never left the Nexus either.
That's true.
And so everything that happened, William Shatner, James T. Kirk is still alive and in the Nexus.
Well, maybe that should be the next Star Trek
There you
show.
go. That's how you bring him back.
The Nexus.
Boom.
Boom.
Boom. There you bring him back. Cal from Swack Props is here. Cal says, I'm glad they took out Kirk's orbital skydive in the beginning. It's extremely cheesy. Also, Starfleet must have dropped their standards right around the time the Enterprise-B launched if they selected an incompetent commander like Harriman to captain it. Cal's right. Douchebag.
Yeah.
Tim also says, I get why they still use the Excelsior class. They have the model and they want to use what they have on hand rather than build a new one. I just mean, why didn't they see a bunch of Ambassador class ships throughout the years? Was it shoddily built? No, it wasn't. The Ambassador class is the Enterprise C from yesterday's Enterprise. That model was built for that. You see it sometimes, but you don't see much of it. I don't know why they didn't use that model more. It's a great model. I like that. I like that ship a lot. I don't know why. Roberto Suarez is here. Look at that.
There he is.
Hello, Roberto. By the way, mad props to Roberto for hosting another great Zoom party. Roberto says, Judith and Garfield Reeve Stevens' Federation is the story the movie should have followed. Yeah, but you know what? Can you imagine? That should have been a fucking miniseries. It would have been great. Ross Gecko continues on and says, Free Enterprise is one of my favorite movies, and I love this scene. He's fantastic in it and on Boston Public. I just like imagining him in classic roles by Nicholson or Hopkins. Imagine him as Hannibal Lecter. Oh my God. That's actually not a bad idea. Now that you brought it up, I mean, not to take away from Brian Cox or Anthony Hopkins, but Shatner could have done it. I mean, the thing about Shatner is you just have to rein him in. You just have to tell him what's up. He gets it. You know, he knows. You just tell him as a director, you tell him what you want, you know, what you need, and he'll give it to you. So, yeah. Well, listen, my dearest. I think is there anything else you'd like to talk about with as far? I mean, you haven't taken your fingers off the Excelsior class there. I know.
It's going to the Nexus.
It is going to the Nexus. So, I mean, there are 13 Star Trek movies.
Yeah, I've only seen 2 so far.
You've only seen 2.
Two of the movies.
Well, you haven't seen Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan?
Nope.
Come on.
Nope. I watched the shows. I never watched the movies. Until
You've never seen Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan?
No. I have not.
How long have we been dating?
Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, how come you haven't showed it to
All right,
me?
the time has come, Elizabeth.
The time has come.
The time has come to talk about the ratings. I mean, we have to end this episode 72 of Whining About Movies. 72. Our first Star Trek film. 72 movies. This is our first Star Trek movie.
We got to start our Star Trek show.
So we are doing that. What is our bottoms up scale?
Our bottoms up scale is from 1 to 4 because there are 4 glasses of wine in a bottle.
4 glasses of wine in a bottle. And on a scale of 1 to 4 glasses of wine, what would you give Star Trek Generations?
Man, this is hard because it wasn't great. Although there were some good moments. So I'm going to give it 2.
Me too.
2 glasses.
We
of
are
wine.
meeting of the mind. Star Trek Generations gets 2 glasses of wine.
2.
And that's only if they're very heavy pours.
Yes, heavy pours.
Well,
There you go.
there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind souls, gentle beings, however you identify from across the 28 known galaxies, we bring Elysabeth's Whining About Movies, episode 72, to an end. I want to thank our great moderating staff. We have, look who's here, Joshua Levesque, Robert Pariso, Mr. Derringer, the Richard. I think that's everybody here. Thank you very much. I want to thank them for moderating. I also want to thank Mike Bodden and Greg Smith and all of the great people that support this channel. But most of all, I want to thank you, our viewers. I want to thank everybody for supporting this channel via super chats and tips. But letters, I love sending letters. Well, I don't love sending letters. I love reading the letters you send to me and send to her. You can send us letters at the Burnettwork.net website. Go in the top right corner. You can send letters. You can see videos or send videos like BL Alley's videos, which we love. I also want to thank Xevious. Xevious for his amazing artwork. And for those of you who are like, wait, who's Xevious? Xevious is the man who made this.
Yes.
Elysabeth the Ace. I mean, this isn't just great art, it's also witty and it takes a great mind to come up with something like this, a mind I don't have. And I'm so great that we have viewers that do. So thank you to Xevious.
Yes, it's great.
For doing something, right? Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's great, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be back, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow I do John's show. I do the Prisoner show, I do my show, and Whining. I mean, it's a 4-show day.
Wow.
So for those of you who haven't been watching as Heel versus Babyfaces and my show, I host it tomorrow at noon. We are going to be talking about the Prisoner episode, Many Happy Returns, which you should watch. It's a good one. Join us. Here ends Whining About Movies, episode 72. Take us out.
Yeah, but tomorrow we're doing the verdict.
We're doing the verdict.
We've been trying to do for the past
We have been.
2 weeks.
You're right, we have been. And it's such a great movie. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes, so the verdict tomorrow.
The verdict at 8 o'clock. It's a later show, 8 o'clock, Paul Newman show. Paul Newman movie, not show.
Paul Newman
But you
show.
got to take us out, Elysabeth.
Everyone you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen.
And that was pretty good. We're getting good with the synchronization. With one breath, with one blow, you will know synchronicity. I don't even know if those are the right lyrics. Have a better knife, or have a butter knife.
Or what was it tonight? Grab an udder? Have an udder something? Udder?
Have a nutter, butter, udder.
Udder? Grab an udder?
And by the way, thank you to BL Alley for his continued amazing video series where he makes fun of both of us.
Yes.
Mostly me.
No, he makes me look pretty dumb.
Really?
But it's hilarious.
It is hilarious. I think the fact that somebody takes so much time and effort and special effects.
The special effects are
I mean,
really
BL
cool.
Alley has become the ILM of this channel. BL Alley is the industrial light and magic of the Burnettwork.
There you go.
There you go. And wherever there you go, there you are. As we know from a previous movie,
right.
Buckaroo Banzai. Thank you very much, everybody. And
good night.
Hopefully. Oh wait, hang on. You know what? John and Carmelo. John sends a last super chat in and says, "What do you think of Shatner naming Kurtzman in his tweets? What do I think? I think, by God, sir, let me raise my glass to you for standing against mediocrity."
Oh, really? He's been saying stuff?
Oh yeah, he's been talking shit. It's great.
About the new shows?
Well, about the whole thing. If you're William Shatner and they have a Star Trek day and they put Leonard Nimoy's picture here and your picture's like this, like, give me a break. You're 89 years old and you've been Star Trek. You established Star Trek in 66.
Right.
Paramount and CBS has a Star Trek day and they make you the smallest person on the poster.
Why'd they do that?
Because they're fucking assholes. Well, I mean, that might have been the greatest. I hope he never stops. The fact that Alex Kurtzman allowed that to happen, this is why Star Trek is bad and has been bad for the last 11 years. Terrible producing. Because somebody looked at that image and said, oh yeah, make Shatner the smallest person on that poster.
That's ridiculous.
Really? How about just with his social media? You know, when you get cast for a role, people want to know, what's your social media? How many Instagram followers do you have? Well, you should look at Shatner's social media, and when you make his picture this big, I mean, you know what? I would fire everybody who did that. I'd fire the studio who allowed that to happen, the custodians of Star Trek. Oh my God, you make Shatner this big. You think he's going to forget that shit? No.
Wow. That is so rude.
It is so rude, so disrespectful, so stupid and short-sighted. And once again, bad producing, which is what Star Trek has been badly produced. It's been badly produced for the last 11 years. Badly produced. They've spent twice as much money for half the return. Modern Star Trek is... And by the way, what are we doing? We're talking about a film that was made under the Berman era, right after Next Generation went off the air. I'm not saying... I certainly am not beyond criticizing all Star Trek. But the last 11 years of Star Trek has been a mess. It's been produced by incompetence and written by people that are incompetent. But I don't mean to start, Throg McFly says, Big Willie Shats. Yes, that's right. And they did a Big Willie Shat right on Shatner's face with that Star Trek poster. It was really bad. I mean, really, really bad. You know what isn't really bad? I'm just going to throw this in there. Look at this. Here's Jason Spriggs. Look at that. Come on, look at that. There's Elysabeth. Elysabeth is Barbarella. That shows more wit and understanding of the genre than the last 11 years of producers who have made Star Trek. Just saying. And on that note, we're going to go out with this. More great artwork. Thank you all very much. Stop me before I drink some more wine. Live long. Actually, hang on. You know what we got to do?
Yeah, we got to do it.
We have to do it. Live long and prosper. We come to serve. And with that, we say goodnight.